Hi guys, and welcome back to Rich Girl Energy Podcast. I'm your host Priyanka, and this is the third episode of my podcast. Today's episode is called Becoming That Woman. This episode has been broken down into 5 different chapters. Obviously, according to whichever chapter you want to watch and listen to, feel free to skip to that one. I'm going to be starting off with chapter 1, which is called The Identity Shift. A lot of the time we think that an identity shift actually starts with the habits that we stick to, but it actually isn't the main reason. The biggest reason to an identity shift is identity and mindset. I'm saying this because most of the time people try to change their life by changing what they do. For example, a new hobby, a new aesthetic, a new routine, but behavior follows directly. So if your mindset and your identity don't align, you cannot make that change. You cannot become the highest version of yourself. If you still see yourself as someone that has to prove something to people, you will always keep over-explaining. If you see yourself as someone who is scared of losing people, you will always overgive in life. If you see yourself as someone who is always behind in life, you will always be rushing and stressing about everything. This is why I say mindset is very important. If you're still thinking like your past self would think, you're never going to become that best version of yourself. You're never going to evolve. The version that you're trying to become thinks differently. She thinks something different about herself. She trusts herself. She believes in herself. She doesn't make decisions based off being scared. She doesn't have to rush. She doesn't have to stress. She trusts herself and she lives peacefully. Identity shows up in the smallest moment. It's when a plan gets cancelled last minute. If that was to happen to me, instead of being annoyed, I think that wasn't meant to be and I moved. It's how you speak to yourself when you get annoyed at yourself or things don't work out. I don't raise my voice at myself. I don't get annoyed at myself. I'm okay with it and I know it happened for a reason, so I continue moving on with life. You need to ask yourself, when things don't work out or things are uncertain, how do you speak to yourself? Do you speak to yourself calmly and with respect, or do you just get annoyed at yourself? That woman doesn't spiral. She pauses, she thinks about it, she finds a solution. She breathes and she knows everything is working out the way it needs to work out. Even if she doesn't see how it's working yet, she knows it will work out. This is what you call an identity shift. Instead of asking, what shall I do next? You ask yourself, who am I choosing to be in this moment? When your identity shifts, everything follows. Now I'm going to be moving on to chapter 2, which is called The Standards That Shape Your Life. You don't rise to your goals. You set boundaries and you have standards. Standards aren't there to control other people or tell them what to do. They're there for yourself, the discipline for yourself. The woman that has emotional standards first, she doesn't react straight away. She pauses, she thinks about it. She doesn't let one bad moment of her day ruin her life. She thinks about it, she tells herself it's okay. Even if it isn't okay, she knows it will be okay. She doesn't give emotional access to every single person. She knows that emotional control is self-respect. She also has standards for relationships and other people. She doesn't like inconsistency, so if anyone is inconsistent, they need to go. She doesn't chase clarity. If someone doesn't know whether they want you in your life, there's no need for them to be in your life. She doesn't need to convince other people to choose her and pick her. She picks herself, she chooses herself, so she doesn't need that from anyone else. She trusts patterns over potential. She sees how other people move, and that's how she picks whether she wants these people in her life or not. For me, if you aren't working hard every day or trying to be a better version of yourself, I don't need you in my life and I don't want you in my life, because at the end of the day, the people that you surround yourself with is who you become. She understands that what isn't aligned doesn't require self-abandonment, and she also has personal standards. These are how she treats herself, how she treats her body, how she looks after herself, how she speaks to herself, how she moves. She keeps promises to herself, no matter how small they are. That's where real confidence comes from. The way you treat yourself when no one's watching. When you're by yourself, you still treat yourself with so much respect. And finally, I'm going to talk about communication standards. She doesn't settle for anyone that doesn't deserve to be in her life. She doesn't let people argue about her boundaries. She doesn't need to over-explain, and she doesn't need to people please. Her life changes not because she demands more, it's because she tolerates less. She doesn't tolerate things that don't align with her. Now I'm going to be moving on to chapter 3, which is habits that quietly transform you. Trying to become her and work on yourself doesn't need to be loud. It's quiet and it's what you do consistently every single day. She lives her life slowly, peacefully, and on purpose. She doesn't need to rush conversations with people. She doesn't have to stress about her day. She knows exactly what she's doing and she knows everything will work out for her. She practices emotional discipline all the time. She allows herself to feel her feelings, but she doesn't let these feelings take over her life. Even when people are trying to test her and trigger her, she still stays in character. She still knows her worth and she still knows herself. She responds instead of reacting. She has morning habits that are healthy. being able to wind down in the evenings with peace, and consistent routines that allow her to be more healthy and live in peace. I'm not sure about you guys, but for me, a routine is very helpful and it keeps me going. For me, routine creates safety, and safety creates confidence. It allows me to do everything with confidence because I know exactly what I'm doing when I'm doing it. She's very picky and selective with her energy and who she allows into her life. I don't have to accept every single invitation in life. If I don't want to be there, I'm not going to be there. If it doesn't align with my future self, I don't need to go. It doesn't matter who it is. If it's not for me, it's not for me. Not every message needs to be replied to straight away. I don't have to reply to you right now if I'm doing something and I'm busy. At the end of the day, I need to live my life and I need to get what I need to get done before responding. Obviously, it depends on the person and the situation, but in most cases, if it's not an emergency, I don't need to respond right now. Her femininity is intentional. Her tone is calm, she sounds peaceful, her posture is grounded. If you think about these habits, they're not big habits. They're small, but they make a massive difference in your life and how you feel. When you change who you are, your life follows. I'm going to be moving on to chapter 4, which is letting go to become her. This is very, very, very important. You can't become who you want to become if you're still holding on to the old version of yourself. Growth requires release. There are times where I sit and I look back to who I was a few years ago and I think to myself, I don't want to be that person again, but I know the person that I am now is who I wanted to be back then. So I had to let go of people and things that no longer aligned with me to be able to get to this place. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to get to this place. So that obviously means outgrowing people, outgrowing the old version of yourself, sometimes habits. This part can feel really weird in terms of you once felt safe being that person, but you had to let go in order to do better for yourself and be a better person for yourself. There might be a period where you have to go through silence, and there's nothing wrong with that. In that silence, you will learn so much more about yourself and who you want to become. You won't always get closure, you won't understand why things happened the way they happened, but you need to know that all of that happened for a reason, and you may not get an answer, but just remember, it all happened for a good reason. Not everything is a loss, and sometimes it's actually protection. Letting go isn't failure, it's alignment. Alignment can feel more uncomfortable than peaceful. In the long term, you'll realize that you'll be glad that it happened the way it happened. And now finally, chapter 5, which is called Becoming Her Daily. Becoming that woman is a decision that you make every single day. You wake up and you think, I want to become her, and you sit there and you do things that will help you become that person. You choose yourself without feeling guilty. You put yourself first. You decide that you want to do the thing that you've been wanting to do, but you've been scared, but you finally start to do that. Protect your peace without having to explain that to people. You don't rush your life. You don't stress about things. You stop forcing outcomes. You let God or the universe do whatever needs to happen, and you trust that. You then also trust yourself. You don't need to tell people about your growth because people feel it. People know. And obviously when you're growing, you're going to lose even more people, and that's okay. You move differently, you speak differently, you respond differently, and every day you will start to feel more grateful for who you are and who you're becoming. Now I'm going to be closing off this episode, and I just wanted to say, you do not need to rush who you're trying to become. Everything happens for a reason, and over time you will become her. Just keep putting in the work. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. There is literally no one that you need to prove anything to. And the third one is you do not need to chase anyone. Remember to stay intentional, stay grounded, and keep choosing alignment. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you guys in episode 4. Mwah.